Hey guys, this is RRPG here, and I'm here to present another 2 cents video on the 2 cents block for you all. Instead of this being a video based on video game news, or anything that is Nintendo related news, I decided to do something of an impromptu topic as I need to practice that angle with my 2 cents videos some more. Before I get started, this video is a response to YouTube user and Gamers at Large member BearHugger29, as he made an opinion piece / rant video asking the question of why people in this day and age must always go for gritty, realistic graphics in games and not accept those that are heavy with color. What I mean by that is that there are games that go for a more colorful, cartoonish, or even artistic approach with a game's overall presentation, instead of just those that portray a more realistic look. Games that I'm referring to that have color are ones like Nintendo's entire catalog of IPs, Sonic the Hedgehog, Jet Grind Radio, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and even the upcoming Splatoon on the Wii U. Those are a few examples, as there are others that go for a more colorful approach in modern gaming, like Sunset Overdrive on the Xbox One. His video was also on something else as well, but he popped the question why gamers in this day and age cannot accept color in a game's overall look or aesthetic. In all honesty, I really don't even know as well, because color is another way to show off a game's creativeness and artistic side instead of just going for something that Western gamers always favor more. As most of you already know, I was born in the 80s and the Nintendo Entertainment System was the very first video game console that I have ever owned. After that, I owned every other console that the Big N has ever put out, and they continue to bring about a cartoonish approach within their games that still hold up for today's standards. I would say that if there were at least a couple games that went for a more realistic feel, then it would be the 3D Metroid games such as the Metroid Prime trilogy and Metroid Other M, as well as Geist on the Nintendo GameCube, a very underrated game, mind you. I guess some people would go as far to say that The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess had a more realistic vibe to it because of the color scheme, but you can't deny that the game still went for a cartoon-based approach within the characters. Other than that, they continue to put out game after game that went with their trademark aesthetic with changes in environments and character designs from time to time, but they always went for that same route and it hasn't even changed. Many other games that were not made by Nintendo had a more cartoonish or even cel-shaded approach in the presentation. Those games are the Crash Bandicoot franchise, Spyro franchise, Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, Beautiful Joe, Okami, The Wonderful 101, Sunset Overdrive, Jet Grind Radio, Sonic the Hedgehog, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the Tales series by Namco Bandai, the anime license games put out by Namco Bandai such as Dragon Ball, Naruto, and One Piece, and so many others that I can hardly name them all off the top of my head. You can tell that color has also been a focal point for other companies too. So you figure that you would like something else to get your mind off the likes of games that are gray and brown like Gears of War, Grand Theft Auto, Halo, Saints Row, God of War, and The Last of Us, right? Unfortunately, that does not hit home with many others who go for the ones that look gritty and very depressing. The sad thing is that most of these games that are heavy with color hasn't brought itself into a commercially successful state, especially Okami. That game sold over 200,000 units each on the PlayStation 2 and Wii, but could not bring itself to be an instant seller. Sunset Overdrive has about 750,000 copies sold at retail, physical copies mind you, and it still hasn't even reached the 1 millionth mark in sales yet. However, the one that really disgusts me is that The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker is probably the least commercially received game out of the modern Zelda games because the general public disliked the cartoonish vibe within the visuals. Let me ask you a question about that. Just because a game has cartoonish visuals or full of color, does that mean it's a child's type of game? Hell no! You go through The Wind Waker for what it is, that game had to be one of the darkest and most surreal games in the entire series, next to the likes of Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. Hyrule no longer existing because of the cruel fate it endured with Ganon's return, Link finishing off Ganondorf by jumping into the air and impaling the Master Sword through the Madman's skull, Phantom Ganon always being there to unleash the power of darkness upon Link. Yeah, those are some pretty dark and sketchy moments happening within that game. How about Okami with the presence of Yamato no Orochi throughout half of the game? The mysterious appearance of Lord Ninetales? The final battle between Amaterasu and Yami? See what I mean? Games don't always have to be realistic or gritty in visuals that embraces the need to include sex, drugs, guns, blood, rape, or even the overabundance of swearing. To me, the more people that accept that as what gaming should be centered towards, the more I find that to be extremely offensive and less entertaining. Many of those reasons are why I dislike games that share more of those themes within the visuals and story, such as DMC Devil May Cry by Ninja Theory, or even the Grand Theft Auto games that try to be as real as possible. If video games are about escaping from reality, then why is it that color is not acceptable in people's minds? That just does not make any sense. We need to stop judging games for their looks and start judging them for how much fun they are, because many of you that enjoy the realistic games more than the colorful and cartoonish ones may actually be missing out on a lot of the things that you might find to be far more impressive than what you always prefer. Color is not something to ignore within games, or even in movies, TV shows, or comics for that matter, because ignoring that feature is completely discriminatory. We need to accept both sides, because that would bring about a better balance for gamers and the gaming industry as a whole. Alright guys, that is all on my end for this topic. I want to know your 2 cents on this matter. Do you enjoy having color in games, or is it something that is not your cup of tea? Make sure to rate this video as well as leaving your positive and negative feedback down in the comments. Also be sure to hit that subscribe button underneath the video, as more support from you guys will mean that more content is coming from me in the future that you won't even find anywhere else. Until next time, this is Double RPG signing off by saying Godspeed and game on gamers. Have a good one.